Coverage of Decision 2024 continues now.
The presidential election has been called.
I will fight for you, for your family.
Plus, we are live with Secretary of State Adrian Fontes. We'll bring you the local updates as they come in.
Arizona Decision 2024 Election Day coverage on 12 Plus, the streaming home of 12 News.
Good morning, Arizona. I am Allison Rodriguez.
I'm Emily Pritchard. Thank you for keeping it here with us on 12 Plus for a special extended version of Today in AZ. While much of the country was sleeping, Donald Trump was declared the winner of the 2024 presidential race.
That's right. Hours before the announcement, the president-elect did give a victory speech in Florida, though the race had not yet been called. But take a listen.
So I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
Swing state Wisconsin was called for Mr. Trump around 3:30 this morning Arizona time. That put him at 277 electoral college votes. That, of course, is up 7 from the needed 270 to clinch after he already got North Carolina, Pennsylvania as well. And then Wisconsin really put him over. His opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, she's sitting at 224 electoral college votes. So there's really no way for her to make up that gap here. Mr. Trump would make now the second candidate in U.S. history to win non-consecutive White House terms.
And we know you care about what happened in your local election results, and that's what we're turning to right now, starting with Arizona's highly watched U.S. Senate race. You can see on your screen Democrat Ruben Gallego and Republican Kari Lake vying for that seat that is being vacated by independent Senator Kyrsten Sinema. And you see Gallego with 50% of the vote, Kari Lake trailing with 48%, Gallego leading with more than 61,000 votes.
And the race for Maricopa County Recorder, let's look at this one here. Republican Justin Heap has a narrow lead right now over Democrat Tim Stringham. So you're seeing Stringham at 48%, both newcomers to this role here, as Justin Heap was able to beat out incumbent Stephen Richer, who is the current recorder in the primary. So Heap is now ahead. So it looks like this still will stay a Republican for Maricopa County Recorder.
And taking a look right now at the race to be the next Maricopa County Sheriff. A lot of eyes on this one. As of now, Republican Jerry Sheridan leading Democrat Tyler Camp. You see Sheridan with 53% of the vote, Camp trailing with 47%.
Republican incumbent Rachel Mitchell ahead of Democrat Tamika Wooten in the race for Maricopa County Attorney. That's what you're looking at here. You see Mitchell sitting at 54% of the vote, Wooten at 46%.
Here's a major development this morning. Proposition 139, the measure that would guarantee the right to an abortion in Arizona and the state constitution, has passed. You see that check mark next to the 62% of the vote saying yes, 38% saying no.
All right, 7:04 coming up on 7:05. Let's send you over to meteorologist Ginger Jeffries as you head out the door on this Wednesday. But hey, grab that jacket or sweater before you go.
Definitely, you're going to need it. We already saw fresh snow coming down in the higher elevations right now. As you can see, it's starting to dissipate, but this is the way it looked this morning. Yeah, Arizona's gondola cam. So above about 9,500 foot level, it looks like we accumulated. There was a dusting down around 7,000 feet, but it doesn't look like it's going to be sticking. And now all the cold air trailing the front, that's going to stay with us today. As a result, I'm talking about winds and temperatures that are a little bit below normal. But hey, because of the fresh snow, wanted to remind you, did you know Snow Bowl opens November 22nd? At least that's a scheduled day. All right, now forecast highs for us today. Upper 60s and low 70s. I've got 65 in Fountain Hills, 69 in Chandler, 71 in Glendale, and 71 in Goodyear. But wind, this is a key component of our forecast today because the winds are definitely going to be picking up right around the 4 o'clock hour. That's the wind that trails the frontal boundary. It continues to push it away from us. And this is a wind that's a cold wind. So look out and be ready for this one. Daytime highs continue to cool off into tomorrow.
Thanks, Ginger. Time now, 7:06. Okay, Buckeye drivers, build extra time to your commute. ADOT's not focusing this camera, but you can still see that everyone is slowly flowing around that Left lanes remain blocked. This is near Verrado Way on I-10 eastbound Buckeye. We'll have a better look at that on my traffic maps here. So you can see it's about 7 miles before you get to the 303 in the West Valley. That's where these backups are occurring there, far west. This is a massive high country closure. It's I-40 eastbound. That is still closed at Flagstaff until further notice. People are sliding off the interstate because of the winter weather there. So that's why they shut that section of the interstate down right now. So you're going to have to work your way through town, get on North 4th Street to rejoin I-40 eastbound.
Thanks for the heads up on that, Lauren. We know that can impact a lot of people. Now we're turning back to Decision 2024 and the election analysis you're salivating for, maybe as much as that cup of coffee this morning. 12 News political insider Bram Resnick joining us live in studio again this morning to focus on our national politics.
Yeah, I think we could all use a strong cup of joe this morning.
I know there's a lot of excitement, but also anxiety out there.
Absolutely.
Amongst our viewers.
Brams, I want to talk about the top of the ticket here. Let's talk about this presidential race being called for former President Donald Trump, who will now be is president-elect, essentially. Did this surprise you? Because all of the polls were saying they were so close, but were these really within the margin of error?
No. In many cases, they were beyond the margin of error. And to answer your question more directly, no, it didn't surprise me. Because in this race, nothing really would have surprised me. After we know the polls have been having a hard time over the last several cycles in actually measuring voter sentiment. And so that's one thing that was going for it. And the other was you had this unprecedented campaign where you had one candidate who has been campaigning for just 3.5 months to be president and really just introducing herself to the country in that time. That was very unusual. And Donald Trump, who will be the first convicted felon to be president, that is very significant. That was something we had never dealt with, but apparently that didn't bother a majority, or has not bothered a majority of American voters.
And we heard from Mr. Trump overnight. He declared victory a few hours before that race was actually called. But we have not heard from Vice President Kamala Harris yet. Do you feel like this is normal, or is this maybe what you'd expect?
No, I believe she's going to make a statement today. Her campaign said last night she would make a statement today, and I would fully expect that to happen. Bitter, hard-fought race. The rhetoric was like nothing we've seen in our lifetimes. The stakes were incredibly high, are incredibly high. And I want to say one word here about the rhetoric Donald Trump used now that he is president-elect. He has said he will start a mass deportation. One of his associates has said that deportation could include the legal citizen children of undocumented immigrants. In this community, that is a siren going off. We have to acknowledge that. I understand there's celebration out there, but that's a very important point to make for the community we live in. We don't know how this will play out. As we've learned, Donald Trump often says things he does not act on, but that is out there.
You know, since you brought that up, I kind of want to jump ahead here to Proposition 314, which is the Secure the Border Act here in Arizona, which so far is passing with a pretty good majority lead here. This would allow local law enforcement to enforce some of these immigration rules. So as you're talking about these mass deportations, I mean, what does that look like here? Everyone said this is just the new SB 1070, which we lived through. It seems like this is just going to be a long legal fight.
Well, it is a long legal fight. So this, is what's known as a messaging measure to get people to the ballot. And clearly you see the frustration, and that is bipartisan, Republican, Democrat, Independent, when you see a number like 63% like that. But on two fronts, this really is meaningless, for the moment at least. This is unenforceable because of a Supreme Court ruling in 2012 on SB 1070 that said local law enforcement, local and state, cannot enforce federal immigration laws. That's going through the courts. It might eventually make it to the Supreme Court thanks to a very similar Texas law. The other thing is, there's no money to do this. As we've all heard, our law enforcement agencies are all pretty strapped right now. There's no money to do this. So even if it were the law were to become the law, it's unclear how it would even take effect.
And we know Republicans will take control of the U.S. Senate. I know you wanted to touch on our U.S. Senate race, which is so close here in Arizona between Democrat Ruben Gallego and Republican Kari Lake, with Gallego leading. I mean, where is this going to all end up at?
Well, Ruben Gallego made a speech last night when he had I think it was a 6 or 7 point lead. It wasn't a victory speech because there were still a lot of ballots to cast. Right now, there are about 1 million left, but it came close to it. The word this morning is slow your roll.
Yeah.
You see now that Ruben Gallego and Kari Lake separated by 2 points, 2 percentage points, and that could change with 1 million ballots left to count.
Across the state, I mean, there's a lot of work to do. Also, we know because of unsubstantiated bomb threats that 3 of our counties here are going to have delayed results. And so just every vote counts when you're talking about margins like this. So we're going to have to see how that's going to impact everything. Quickly, because we're running out of time here, let's talk about Proposition 139. This is the abortion ballot essentially here in our state, and voters overwhelmingly saying yes, which in my mind, it seemed like a lot of a conservative kind of issue on abortion. But when I see the Republicans leading in so many other races, it's interesting how people split.
And certainly some of those folks in the 62% cast a vote for Donald Trump or Kari Lake.
Right.
This is a bipartisan. This measure did have bipartisan support. There were 10 on the ballot nationwide last night. This is one of 4, I think, that have passed. This is significant. It'll enshrine the right to an abortion in the state constitution. However, as advocates have told me, the fight is not over. They expect legal challenges to this, and depending on the composition of the federal government, our state government, you don't know how things could change when it comes to the law on abortion, reproductive rights.
That fight is not over. Our Election Day coverage is still not over either. You will be with us here on 12 News throughout the day and the weeks to follow. Bram, we appreciate your analysis for us this morning and covering it all for us.
My pleasure. Thanks.
So Maricopa County election employees, they are still working right now to make sure all the ballots are processed. As Bram was mentioning, there's still a lot to go through. 12 News journalist Jen Wall has more now from the Tabulation and Election Center.
I'm Jen Wall in Phoenix. The Maricopa County Tabulation and Election Center is busy once again this morning. Employees hard at work processing your ballots. Initial unofficial results are now posted for the 2024 general election in Maricopa County. The results representing more than 1.1 million ballots, about 43% of total eligible voters. The drop coming down at 8 p.m. last night, and it includes Maricopa County ballots returned by last Tuesday. And additional in-person election day results are going to be posted as they're returned from each of the 246 vote centers overnight. County Supervisor Bill Gates says they will continue to tabulate ballots until they run out. And ahead today, the county tells us an estimate of early ballots dropped off on Election Day will be available early this morning. Those early ballots have to be signature verified and processed before counted. The county also has to research provisional ballots and cure questionable signatures. Gates adding Maricopa County is still on track to finish tabulating all ballots in the next 10 to 13 days, which is where Maricopa County has been historically through the 1990s and what we have been reporting recently too. We expect that next big vote drop to come later on this evening, and that is what we are hearing from the county.
Thank you, Jen. We're now turning to your weather impact on your Wednesday morning. Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries joining us as we turn to 7:15. And Ginger, you have our current conditions as we're stepping out the door.
Definitely on the cooler side. You're going to feel it out there. Not only did we get fresh snow this morning, which means there's a lot of cold air overhead, but we've got some wind to bring that cooler air right into our neck of the woods. I'm calling it sunny and breezy. I know we still can't complain about 72 degrees, but by our standards, that means the bulk of your day is going to be in the 60s, and that's on the mild side for us. Then tonight, courtesy of gusty winds, temperatures are really coming down. I've got 49 degrees on the horizon. So yeah, the radar still shows some saturation, some freezing rain and snow in the higher elevations. I zeroed in on this guy because it looks like we've got a little bit of activity on the 101, but then Lauren pulled up some of the ADOT cameras. Doesn't look like anything's actually making its way to the surface. So this area of low pressure, it's getting wrapped up in the jet stream and pushed away from us. There is some instability trailing the front, so that could spring a leak overhead tomorrow. It does look like that's going to stay in the higher elevations, but the cold air, that is definitely going to drop into play. Yesterday, I showed you we just have that freeze warning to the northwest of us, but now the National Weather Service has extended it to portions of Gila, Maricopa, and Pinal counties. So friends, get ready. Numbers are definitely going to be on the cooler side tonight and staying below the normal range through tomorrow. Lauren?
Thanks, Ginger. Time is 7:16. We got a lot to go over here in traffic, so we'll start with the northbound Loop 101 at the Red Mountain 202. ADOT zoomed out, of course, but there were multiple lanes being blocked off by this crash, and things are very slowly moving there on those lanes. And then far west, about 7 miles before the Loop 303. This is at Verrado Way. I-10 eastbound, very slow. It's stop and go. The left lanes remain blocked there, so build an extra 15 minutes if you are commuting in from Buckeye right now. Big time closure in the high country. I-40 eastbound still closed at Flagstaff, so you're going to have to work your way through town and get on North 4th Street to rejoin the I-40 eastbound.
Thanks for the heads up on that, Lauren. At 7:17, we're turning to a developing story out of the East Valley. The Mesa community is mourning a tragic loss today after 5 people died in a plane crash. 12 News journalist Troy Lynch is reporting now from the East Valley.
Yeah, officials are saying that this crash happened around 4:40 on Tuesday night. We are on Greenfield Road right now, the road where the crash actually took place. You could see it right behind me. This crash ultimately resulting in 5 people dying here at Falcon Field on Tuesday. We do want to warn you that these images that you are about to see are intense. Now, officials are saying from the National Transportation Safety Board that the investigators are supposed to arrive sometime today. They're also saying that a Honda HA410 Jet crashed through a fence and into a car on Greenfield Road after aborting a takeoff here at Falcon Field. Now, we're not sure how many people in total were on board or in the car, and we're still waiting to hear back if the road is going to be open up today or anytime soon, because many different workers here at the airport or the museum are trying to get in. But we do know that the plane is supposed to be taken to a secure facility for further investigations, and it's going to primarily focus on the pilot, the aircraft, and the operating environment.
All right, Troy, thank you. Let's get back to Decision 2024 coverage now. Voting is over in Arizona. And while the presidential race has been called nationally, the results from our state have not been. There is still work to do.
We're joined live now by Secretary of State Adrian Fontes via Zoom this morning. Secretary Fontes, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. So we want to know what your assessment of how yesterday went is.
Well, we had mostly some great results from the election administration perspective, except for in Apache County. We had some really significant technical issues with both the voter check-in system and some of the printers up there. And they had to extend hours, a couple of hours for some of those voters who ended up hopefully getting as many of those folks voting as possible. But otherwise, across the rest of the state of Arizona, we saw some really great results. Folks excited to be voting, casting their ballots, and now it's time to count everything up and wrap this thing up over time.
Well, as we did mention, there's still a lot of work to do, right? Secretary Fontes, there were also some unsubstantiated bomb threats that came in here and did impact some counties. So can you walk us through what happens next, what that impact looks like today and forward?
Yeah, well, we had been spending a lot of time preparing for this exact sort of thing. When I took office in January of 2023, we made sure to increase our security protocols across the entire institution and across the whole state with county offices, opening up those lines of communication, not only with emergency responding types of folks, but law enforcement folks as well. We were able to communicate very clearly up and down the channels with folks in federal, state, and local law enforcement to make sure we were very clear about the nature and type of the threats that were foisted. They did come back unconfirmed pretty quickly, unsubstantiated. They continued to spread through the state as the afternoon and the evening went on. But we saw the pattern really emerge and were not really disrupted too much. There were some minor hiccups, but as soon as everybody was confirming that this was the same basically hoax that we experienced, we could move forward with operations pretty clearly. And I do not think, my information was that no one was ever really in danger.
Well, that we are grateful to hear early this morning. And we know you spent the last year trying to get ahead of mis and also disinformation, warning also about the use of AI. Do you really feel like that message hit voters?
I think it hit voters as well as the folks who talk to voters, like folks like you in the media. You know, we did our training with local and national media folks. We did our AI trainings with law enforcement agencies, and of course our elections officials. Look, just because you don't need some of the preparations that you have doesn't mean you're not going to have them ready, right? You got to be ready if the power goes out with those generators. You got to be ready if you run out of paper. This is really one of those circumstances where I'm very glad for the preparation. I'm very glad that folks were vigilant. And we've got to continue to do so. This thing is not over for Arizona. As we know, elections here are a season, not a day. And we still don't have final results. Anything can happen still. We remain vigilant. We remain our eyes wide open. And we will continue to do so until every vote is counted and the election is finally certified at the end.
Well, thank you so much, Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, for joining us. I know it has been a busy 24 hours for you, and we appreciate you spending some of your time today with Today in AZ. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to be with you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And we also want to say thank you to you watching this extended edition of Today in AZ on 12 Plus this morning. We appreciate you being with us.
So keep coming back to 12 News, 12news.com and 12 Plus for all of the latest breaking news, weather, and traffic every morning and all throughout the day today. Remember, our election coverage, post-election day coverage, is not over yet. We will continue that over on 12 News, our NBC channel.
We'll see you there.